that intro.
Hey guys, and welcome to Ditch the Pavement. I'm Presley, here with my co-host Haley,
Hello.
and today we're going to talk about all the, what are we talking about?
Talking about all the great benefits and why it's so important to get outside.
Yeah, especially in today's day and age with COVID and everything and everyone trapped indoors. And it literally is a trap almost.
It is,
Essential, but...
it's completely essential, and I hope you guys all understand why it has to be this way. But it doesn't mean it doesn't suck. Get a little stir crazy.
And don't think, quarantine or whatever, that you can't go out and do stuff. You still
There's
can.
actually been a rise in people wanting to find activities that they can do outside that are still also kind of more solo because they're tired of being stuck inside. And, social distancing and everything, you have to do things separate. So there's been a rise in what people are trying to find solo outdoor activities.
Yeah, go
Like
out
gardening.
or ride your bike.
Ride your bike, yeah.
Whatever. You can go around
Just go for a walk.
Pretty simple.
We try to get our walks in with Bailey every day.
Getting Bailey has definitely gave us more of a reason to get outside.
Yeah, we try to do a morning walk about 10:30, and Bailey knows. She knows when it gets to... I swear she knows what time it is. Because she'll start, walking around me and, sniffing at me and staring at me, and I'm like, can you not, please? Bailey's our dog, just for clarification.
Yeah. And dogs need it too, I think.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, they get lazy and plump.
Or incredibly hyper.
Bailey has this thing sometimes where she, has this butt down run. And it happens a lot after a bath and sometimes after walks. She just gets crazy and has this little butt down run, and it's weird. So why do you think it's so important to get outside?
I think many benefits, both physically and mentally, but hitting on the physical front first, I think to me, first thing that comes to mind is that exercise is easier outside. For instance, I've tried 7-minute workout apps or whatever, or Peloton type stuff where you get workouts and it's 15 minutes of workout inside, and you just don't get the same, to me, out of working indoors as you do outdoors. So when you're outside, you could do a lot more stuff. And
Well, I saw a study. It was a bunch of cyclists. I think they were more of road cyclers, but they had them 3 groups. They had one group, they were cycling in front of green, not necessarily greenery, but green walls or green objects or something. And then the other group was yellow and the other group is red. And the group that was in front of the green objects, they reported feeling, like they had actually exerted themselves less, but they were happier. So they were, kind of showing that just being outside, they're doing the same amount of work, but it felt like it was less exhausting.
so the greenery just a lot of times when I give them a fake sense of being outside.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Another thing that was really interesting, researching this topic was, and I sort of knew this going in, where, little things, spurts of being outdoors can give you energy and boost you, and bogged down with work or been working on something for a long duration, and I feel like I need coffee or something like that, exhausted. A lot of times just going for a walk or something, 10 or 15 minutes, when I get back, I feel like I don't need a cup of coffee or anything like that, because I don't know if it's just the act of getting outside and in the sunlight, or if it's the act of actually going and moving. It's probably a combination, but
Yeah.
I think it's important physically to get outside and break up your day, and especially for those people like us where, we're sitting all day, we're staring at a computer, it's terrible for your back and neck. You need to get out and do those things.
I found a quote from Dr. Ross Cameron. He's director of landscape at Sheffield University. Something like that. But his quote is, "The reality is we tend to have the lifestyle of a brick at the minute. We tend to sit for most of the day. We tend to be very sedentary." And it literally made me laugh that he said we have the lifestyle of a brick. And I was like, that's what it feels like sometimes.
You're sitting at the desk for huge amounts of hours, every single day. And on that note, according to a study that the EPA put on, they had estimated that an average American spends 93% of his or her time indoors.
That's really sad.
And that's total lifetime.
That's really sad.
I don't know if we just thought of a mission statement right here on the spot, but
Hey,
it
that's
feels,
how it happens.
it seems like it's unacceptable. 93% of your lifetime. Now, a huge amount will be naturally indoors
Yeah.
because we're sleeping indoors, which is, what is the fact? I was looking at buying a mattress one time, and they were talking about, a third of your life you're spending on your mattress.
Yeah.
So don't cheap out. So I get that.
I mean, we've evolved from living in caves, so we live in buildings. I mean, that's where we have all of our necessities, so it makes sense that you will have a big chunk of your life indoors, but still trying to limit how much of your excess time you have to eliminate that from being inside to going outside and, being in nature and just getting away from it.
Right. And if you work an office job Monday through Friday,
Or a home office job at this point.
if you do that, I feel like it's essential. You have to go outside at least for one of those days.
Yeah.
Um,
I saw even that another study found that even workers that are near a window are happier than, workers that aren't. And it makes me jealous of some of my coworkers because their desks are literally looking out the windows, and I'm in a cube away from the window, and I'm like,
that makes perfect sense, and I'm sure it has to do with like the cycling study you're talking about, where those riders that are looking at green, they tend to think they're outside or whatnot. And I'm sure for those, for the indoor exercise bikes or whatnot with the computer screens on them that
like make it look like you're actually
I'm sure that's better, way more engaging, and
than just seeing your stats right there. That's
yeah,
just
I get that, but none of those bikes are going to be a real bike
no.
being outside. Sure, you might get the physical benefits of it, but
You don't
it's
get
just
to
not the
feel
same.
the outside air and all of that fun stuff and feel like you're gonna fall off the side of the little cliff.
Right. And I wonder, with that, biking indoors on a stationary bike versus a real bike, I'm sure you're working a lot more muscles on a real bike because you literally you have to steer, first of all. A stationary bike, you're just working your respiratory system and your legs.
That's a very good point. You gotta avoid trees.
Yes. Another thing with being outside.
I've almost clipped trees a
Good
couple
segue.
times.
Oh, I have. We're talking about the same topic, so it comes right in. I'll have to.
I clipped a tree right in front of some people one time. That was
Shinrin Yoku.
delightful. I did not fall, but
which
I
we'll
did
get on
clip
that in
the
a second.
tree,
But
and I think they thought I was gonna fall.
I was actually researching the. That's sort of more on the mental side of things, but their natural
Physical
killer cells,
was a study
which are
sort
used
of
to
based
fight off
on that
tumors
topic, and they were
infections and diseases.
took
They're
a bunch
basically
of,
a form of white
Japanese
blood
men
into a forest for, I think, 3 days, 2 nights. Yes, and so not
they're
a long time, but
a
they
form
camped
of
out
white
there and
blood cells.
they
I
took
believe.
measures of their and
Doctors.
we're no doctor, definitely. But usually, and I'm sure, I don't know if they reach a limit, but usually the higher the better, because your body and your immune system is better at fighting off diseases the higher the count is. And for this study of these men, I think it was it was 11 men, and there were other studies, but this one in particular was pretty interesting. So they went into the forest for 3 days, 2 nights, and measured throughout the trip, and in just that short amount of time, their natural killer cell count improved by 50%
Jeez,
by just being outside.
that's a lot.
And part of that is from, they were exercising and they were going on hikes and stuff throughout that trip, but a lot of it was attributed to just being outdoors, and all the pollutants and everything that's in the outdoor air really improves your body.
Yeah. I read that scientists think it's the breathing in of the phytoncides. Phytoncides? I don't know. I can't pronounce things. But they're airborne chemicals produced by plants. Oh gosh. Reminds me of The Happening. It's an interesting movie. Anyways, those phytoncides increase your levels of white blood cells, which helps your immune system.
So that may be what I'm talking about with the...
It's probably related. I mean, it's probably
connected somehow.
Yours is just more scientific sounding than what I have.
So I see a note that I had written down. I meant to hit on it earlier, but when you were talking
We
about
have no real
cavemen,
plan.
no, but it was just an interesting quote, if you will, or whatnot. But basically, it said that the human body was actually built to stand. If you think about it, in cavemen, they were built to stand up and walk around. They weren't built to sit.
I mean, did you know that technically every time you stand up, you should pass out because it's such a, I guess, decrease in blood pressure that I think there's some kind of receptor that gets blocked in your brain to keep you from passing out when you stand up.
That's interesting.
Because you ever, like, it used to happen to me
I
more
wonder
when
if
I
people
was,
with vertigo are
I don't know, but I know
more.
when I was younger, I noticed it more, but like sometimes early in the morning when I had just kind of gotten up, if I sat down and then stood back up, sometimes it gets real dark. Like, you can't see for a second. You never had.
Haven't had that.
Okay, maybe it's just me then, but yeah, technically you should pass out.
That's interesting. Another thing about being outside with blood pressure is with specifically those with abnormally high blood pressure, just being outdoors can actually help lower your blood pressure. And from what I had found, people with normal blood pressure levels, it doesn't really affect them as much. It seems to improve people with abnormally high. For whatever reason, it's sort of equilibrium. It helps bring people back in with what would be considered normal.
Well, did you know that I think maybe it was during the Spanish flu, they found that taking patients outside actually upped their chances of survival because it was a mixture of the fresh air that they were getting, because when you're inside, you actually working harder to breathe all of the recirculated air. And so they took the Spanish flu patient, I think it was Spanish flu, but they took them outside and their chances of survival would kick up. And it was also because they were getting the vitamin D from the sun. And so like they would take them out, I think for an hour or two each day, and it really helped.
That makes sense, just thinking about air conditioning and stuff. And most of us, we don't have air purifiers or anything like that. We have air filters, but
Those only
that's
work
for
if you
dust.
switch them.
But, for being
They
sick,
get some allergens.
yeah, I'm sure.
Anyways,
Depends on the type of filter, but
exactly.
that air is just getting recirculated. And there's a reason why, people say, oh, just go get some fresh air. It's because it truly does work. So I think, especially for those, like we mentioned, that are like us, where, we spend majority of our day inside, specifically sitting down at a desk.
At least you have a standing desk.
Yeah, I don't use it nearly as often as I should, but it does help with my back and everything like that. Standing up, definitely. I think, for all the physical benefits of being outside, go for a walk, go for 2, spend your lunch break outside, do whatever. So on that note, another massive benefit about, getting outside and doing things that you really enjoy out there is the mental side of things, where, for those that are indoors all day, and we saw a lot of it, now with COVID going on and stuff, is the sense of being trapped or depression or whatever just from being inside. And I think a lot of it just deals with not being able to get sunlight, honestly. Especially for those people who work in cubicles or whatever and don't have any access to light. A lot of people are suffering from poor mental health.
Yes.
So I think, well, I don't think, I know actually, there's studies been shown where it's just as simple a thing as going for an outside walk can severely improve things.
I think one of the more interesting facts, or not necessarily, but one of the more interesting points I found looking at the more mental side of it is that I did not know that your brain requires 20% of all the energy your body produces. I thought that was a crazy number. And then if you're doing something that's really mentally challenging, which for some people, like some work projects, whatever they can be, but if you're doing something real mentally challenging, it can take an additional 5 to 10% of energy to do that task. And I mean, I've noticed it, like sometimes if I have like a really busy day at work where I'm like really having to think about what I'm doing, by the end of the day, I'm so tired. I don't want to do anything, but I haven't like physically been doing anything, but my brain's been working. And so what I found was uh, it's easier to get to a daydreaming state when you're out in nature. I think a lot of that is just kind of the silence, and there's not a bunch of stimuli keeping you active, whatever. So when you can reach that daydreaming state, your brain goes into DMN. Any idea what that is?
DNM?
DMN,
DMN.
not DMX. Is that
DMX is a rapper.
okay? I hope I was going with the right thing.
DMN. No, I'm not sure what that is.
That is your default mode network, which I think I was seeing there was a little bit of. It's kind of a newer idea, observation, something, but basically what is it's this really complex, coordinated. It's a complex, coordinated communication between different parts of your brain, and it's really essential to mental processes that develop your understanding of human behavior, and it helps you build your internal code of ethics, and then it also helps you to actually realize who you are as an individual. And I thought that was really interesting because a lot of the times it's hard for us to identify who we are, and I know I struggle with that. I'm like, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know like what my passions are or whatever. Like people ask me and I'm like, can you tell me? I have no idea. So it's just interesting that if you can get out into nature more, it can help you to, understand who you are.
That is interesting. I was like, you were hitting a couple things I was building up what I was going to say, and I basically forgot them all.
Well, did you know that also being outside can help up your I can't speak. Your short-term memory. So it can help you to, remember stuff
That makes sense.
you struggle. You lose your train of thought a lot, and you blame it on me because I interrupt you.
I have a lot
but
going on up top.
you do. You have a lot, and I tell you to write it down. But it can help you to keep that little bit of focus, so you don't forget what you're trying to say.
I think a lot what you're talking about is a lot of it is probably attributed to, or potentially, I guess, is a change of scenery, and things that change, we tend to be stimulated mentally. And when you're working at a desk and you're sitting at the same location for 8 hours a day every day for 5 days a week, more maybe even, it doesn't really change. What's on your computer change, but you're in the same spot every time. So even take your laptop and go sit on the porch, or go do whatever, and
Go to a park.
Just do something to get that. There's all sorts of benefits in that. And a huge one that I have found is the change of scenery just boosts your productivity and mentality. I certainly get tired of being in the same spot and doing the same thing over and over again. Though my work changes, the overall process of it does not.
Because you get up, you go to the same desk, you got the same setup.
Yep, every day for 40 plus hours a week. So
Yeah. That's why I had to move from working on the couch to working at the kitchen counter.
And especially for me, I've been working, well, I guess this isn't really indoors, but when you're working remotely permanently, you have to.
Because at least working in an office, you
have interaction with other people.
Yeah.
And when you're working from home, you don't. And that's a huge part of being outside, is when you're outside, even though you may think subconsciously or not, but you're interacting with other people, whether you think about it or not. Passing someone on the sidewalk, even if you don't say anything to them, you're still interacting with them.
If you pass someone, I'm bad at this because sometimes I don't want to make eye contact, but just try to give a little smile.
Yeah, definitely. You're acknowledging them, and that has an impact on your health.
Yeah, because I also read that the outdoors makes us better people, which I guess kind of touches on what I was talking about a minute ago, is according to the psychologist, I can't pronounce that word, being in nature helps you kind of get rid of all these societal pressures that a lot of us feel, because that's just how it is. Like you feel like you have to blend in and be a part of something to be accepted. But when you go out in nature, it allows you to remember things that are more important to you, like your friends, your family, your community, and stuff like that. So it helps you to forget about all the societal pressures and focus on what is really important to you.
Yeah, because we don't have, normally when you're out in wilderness or whatnot, you don't have all these things that we're messing with day in and day out. Our phone, our Facebook, Instagram, our computers,
Yeah.
access to internet, all that stuff. When you're out there, you have almost no option, especially if you're in a place, where there's no service or whatnot. You have no option but to engage with yourself, I think.
I would say most of the time people go out into nature to get away from the society, but it's not like you're just getting away from all the people and everything, because you still find a community of people that are out in nature. Like there is a completely different community that you'll find when you're out in nature, even if they're literally not right next to you, but you just find like there are people, and it's a wonderful little community of people that love going outside and being in nature.
And I found usually the deeper you are in nature or into a wilderness area or whatnot, the nicer the people.
I would hope so.
Like when you're in a very remote area, people understand that we're out there, and there's just a huge sense of community because it's not easy to get out, whether it's a long hike or bike ride or something like that.
And even just like riding our mountain bikes, we went and you do go and ride at parks or whatever, and people just talk to you because you just have this common interest of being outside and being on your bike. So people just spark up a conversation about anything, and it's really interesting because it's so natural and just feels good to talk to someone about something you like.
Yeah, there's a huge community aspect to everything that you do.
That's why every time you see a Jeep and you're in a Jeep, whatever, there's always the wave.
Yep.
It's always the Jeep wave.
Boaters.
Same thing on boats.
Yeah.
I kind of get a little angry when someone doesn't wave back at me on a boat. Like, hello, I'm waving. It's common courtesy. Come on.
So should we talk about Shinrin-yoku?
Oh, yeah. We said we were going to touch on that. And then tell me about the forest bathing. Because it sounds like I just go out in the forest and, like, rub leaves all over me. Am I off base or?
Not exactly. It's more spiritual than that.
Please elaborate. Tell me more.
So Shinrin-yoku is Japanese for forest bath. And it's basically just a form of therapy that people get from being in nature. And if it's one thing we know about the Japanese culture is they're very connected to nature, and what would be the word for it? They've developed these forms of therapy over centuries. So, the Japanese is one of the oldest cultures on Earth. Is that right?
I don't know.
So it's basically.
I think the Chinese more so, but I do believe Japan has also been. It's been around for a very, very long time.
Yes, definitely. But anyway, it's a form of. I hope I'm saying that right. I would think so, but.
I think I looked it up. That sounded about right.
It's a form
Again, we're no experts on Japanese culture. Nor are we doctors.
So it's basically an interesting way to talk about the therapy behind taking in nature through your senses. And not something just about being outside, but actually taking it in. And you see this a lot, where if you're out doing stuff, there's people who are taking pictures and there's people who are not. And the people who are not are really truly taking it in better than the people who are taking pictures. And it's not about just going outside and doing things. It's more than that. It's to get the true therapy effects is about being outside and using all of your senses, touching trees, smelling flowers, smelling the fresh air. What's another sense? Sight,
taste,
seeing
touch,
things. I wouldn't recommend
hearing.
tasting a lot unless you were
Is there 5 senses?
smell, touch, sight, taste, hearing. One thing when I was researching this is the art of aimlessly walking around is another way to describe it, where, it's almost a form of getting lost in nature, and there's massive impacts that this has on your brain. And, we've hit on a lot of different things, and this is just a more kind of focused part to get these benefits where, you know, if you have a passion for outdoors, you're participating in this to some extent. It's a form of leave your phones at home or leave them in your backpack. You don't need them unless there's emergency. And it's really a more formal form of getting lost, where that word aimlessly walking around is just go and do let yourself take you wherever you want to go.
Yeah, I feel like in today's day and age, being aimless is really seen, I feel like, as a horrible negative thing because, a lot of today has to be about productivity and, you got to get this done and this done and you got to be this or whatever. And so I think, just being aimless and not necessarily having anything to do can be very good to your health and just mentally and physically because you're just, like I talked about, you're just getting rid of all these societal pressures and you're just there. You're just present. I think that's, being present, I think, is a problem that we have today because we're so devoted to our screens between your phone, tablets, computers, especially phones. Like, we're always on our screens and it's not a good thing. Another thing a lot of people struggle with is not getting a good night's sleep. A lot of that is from all the blue light from the screens. And being out in natural light can help to normalize your sleep schedule because it helps regulate your body's melatonin production, which is what makes you sleep. That's your internal clock, and mine is pretty spot on. 10:30, and I'm like, okay, time for bed. Do you know where melatonin is produced?
Frontal cortex?
No.
I have no idea.
The pineal gland.
Is that in your brain?
Somewhere. It is directly affected by access to light. It's inactive during the day, and it kicks on at night.
That makes sense.
Awake feeling rejuvenated. What is that?
Rejuvenation? Yeah, never heard of it.
I may get 8 hours of sleep, but I'm usually still tired.
So it's definitely obvious, the both physical and mental impacts of doing something outside. Those who do versus those who don't. There's a big difference. And or one last thing that I forgot to mention was on those days, where we're caught up with work or doing something and we almost forget to go outside, or we've been, locked in for a long amount of time and you're exhausted afterwards. To me, those are the times where I feel like going to work out or something is the least, the last thing I want to do. But on the times that I force myself to go work out, every time I'm so glad that I did afterwards, because it gives you that boost of energy just by going outside and doing something, even if it's a quick 15-20 minute workout.
Or if it's just a walk around the block.
Yep. And where before, all I wanted to do was sit on the couch, watch TV, and do nothing, but I talked myself into going outside and doing something, and immediate gratification for going to do that. So that would be the challenge for anybody listening, is on those days in particular where you've been inside, you're working hard on something, and you don't feel like doing anything, go out and do it, and I can guarantee you that you will feel refreshed afterwards.
Yeah, at least just go for a walk. You need to get outside and have that air. And even better if it's, a walk in a park near you or a hiking trail or something. Just get out off the pavement, out from outside. No. Get outside.
You heard it here first, people. Get outside.
That's my PSA.
So for those people who are really busy and struggling to go outside or struggling mentally, what do you think is that first step?
That first step is just put on your tennis shoes and going outside for a 5-minute walk. Just walk around the block. Just go outside. Have your phone for emergencies, whatever, but keep it in your pocket. Don't look at it. Just go outside, look at your surroundings, pay attention, be present in your moment that you're spending outside. I think that's the big thing. Don't think about all the work or, oh, I got to get back and do this because, it's due or whatever. Just forget all about that for a moment. Just focus on your walk. Just be present and just enjoy your time.
Don't even take your phone. Odds are not, you're not going to need it.
You don't listen to a bunch of serial killer podcasts like I do.
Those are so unlikely. But yeah, I challenge you, don't put your headphones in. Don't listen to the podcast you've been wanting to listen to or your favorite song or whatever. Because you're seriously blocking your senses. Of part of being outside is using all your senses to take in what it has to offer. And if you're blocking out your sound by listening to something, you're not getting the full benefit out of it. So trust me, you can afford a 15-20 minute walk without looking at Instagram or your phone, without listening to a podcast, and the benefits of it are going to be tremendous.
I love hearing the natural sounds. I think one of my favorite sounds is hearing wind coming through the trees, hearing all the leaves rustle. I really love that sound.
Yeah.
It's calming, and I love being able to hear it from far away and kind of anticipate it coming and hitting me, because it's a lovely feeling.
Yep.
What is your favorite sound?
My favorite sound is a bike cassette.
Okay, your favorite natural sound.
My favorite natural sound is nothing. Like when I'm going for a hike or something, or going for a ride and I stop and I can't hear anything, that's really my favorite sound. If we walk outside now, we live in a construction zone in our apartment, so when we walk outside, we can hear nail guns, saws, all this stuff, cars, and people talking. Their legs get weak. Versus when I'm deep in the woods and I stop and I can't hear anything. That's my favorite.
It's up in the ISS. Is it still called the ISS?
I have no idea. But
I think so.
So I think first step would be build that habit of trying to get out daily. And a quick
Start
tip.
small if it's difficult. Go out for
If you can't walk
couple
5
minutes.
days a week, walk 1 day a week. And if you can't walk 10 minutes, walk 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You don't have to. And if you don't own tennis shoes, wear your sandals.
Yeah.
You don't have to make this very difficult. And
It's more about just the being outside.
every habit starts. I had a quote.
Good
in my
job.
mind.
Every habit starts.
I
You've
had
heard
it-
it here.
I had a good quote about starting a habit, but I forgot it, unfortunately.
You need to get outside and up your short-term memory. It's more about just the being outside. Every habit starts. You've heard it here. You need to get outside and up your short-term memory.
It's bad, but start small and work your way up. And then, once you get to that point, where you're enjoying things, and really then you can start going for weekend trips and long bike rides and everything like that. And, I can assure you, being, on full long day rides, the afterwards of it is phenomenal. Or the feeling that you get after doing that is phenomenal. So work your way up to it. And for me personally, there's no better feeling than coming back after being outside all day, like literally all day. One of the things I hate the most is being inside, and unfortunately that's just part of my lifestyle, but I try to break it up as much as possible. So, so I think wrapping up, the habit of just breaking up life and getting outside and doing stuff, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. The whole important thing is to do it.
Don't be a brick.
Yeah, don't be a brick. Go outside, challenge yourself. Whatever your reminder app of choice is, put a reminder in there. Build the habit, go outside and break up your life and break up your routine, not your life. Hopefully your life stays together.
No, break up your routine.
Break up your routine and go do it. And I can promise you'll be relieved. So guys, that wraps up the show. Thanks for listening to Ditch the Pavement. And if you like what you're hearing, be sure to check us out on social media and stuff. All the jazz.
It's been fun talking with you.
Yeah. We hope this makes an impact, and that's what we're here for. And if you like what you hear, leave us a review. It helps tremendously. So with that, we'll see you on the trail. Peace.
Let's get out there.